A rebellious heiress trapped in an arranged marriage meets a cold tech billionaire who offers her freedom through a fake marriage deal. What starts as a business transaction becomes a dangerous game of hearts when betrayal, secrets, and unexpected love collide in the ruthless world of Manhattan's elite. Hey there, romance lovers. Tonight we dive into a world where every choice has a cost and every moment matters. Shall we begin? The champagne glass trembled in Victoria Sterling's manicured fingers as she stood on the marble balcony of her family's Manhattan penthouse. Below, the city sparkled like broken promises, each light a reminder of the freedom she could never touch. The sound of forced laughter and clinking glasses drifted from the charity gala behind her, where her stepmother Cassandra orchestrated another perfect performance. At 24, Victoria had perfected the art of calculated rebellion.
Every
Midnight street race, every scandalous party appearance, every headline that painted her as the ultimate spoiled heiress served a purpose. If she was wild enough, reckless enough, perhaps no respectable man would want to marry her. Perhaps her father would give up on his plans to auction her off to the highest bidder. The click of designer heels announced Cassandra's arrival, Victoria's. Stepmother appeared like a shadow in her elegant black gown, her smile sharp as winter glass. "Victoria, darling," Cassandra's voice dripped false honey. "Mr. Rothschild is waiting inside. He's quite eager to discuss your engagement." Victoria's knuckles whitened on the balcony railing. Marcus Rothschild was 60 years old, with 3 failed marriages and dead eyes that undressed every woman they encountered. Her father had promised her to him without a second thought, seduced by the merger opportunities. "I'm not interested," Victoria said, her voice steady, despite the hurricane in her chest. Cassandra's mask never slipped. "Your father has already signed the contracts. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Unless you can find someone else willing to marry you and provide the same financial benefits, you'll walk down that aisle like the obedient daughter you were raised to be. I won't be sold like livestock and find another buyer," Cassandra said coldly. "But who would want a wild, uncontrollable girl like you?" The words hit like physical blows, but Victoria lifted her chin in defiance. Across the city, she knew, another world existed, one where people made their own choices, loved who they wanted, lived on their own terms. As Candra's heels clicked away, Victoria pulled out her phone with shaking fingers. The screen showed 17 missed calls from tabloid reporters and her so-called friends. But there was one contact she'd never called. Someone whose reputation for ruthless business dealings was legendary throughout Manhattan's elite circles. Nathan Cross, the tech mogul who'd built an empire from nothing and trusted no one. If anyone understood the language of cold business transactions, it would be him. Her finger hovered over his number as the sounds of her own engagement party continued behind her. A celebration of her imprisonment disguised as joy, Nathan Cross stood in the center of the Meridian Club's private lounge, whiskey burning his throat as he surveyed Manhattan's power brokers like pieces on a chessboard. At 30, he commanded a technology empire worth billions, but success had carved hollow spaces in his chest where trust used to live. 3 years ago, his fiancée Juliette Morrison had smiled while she kissed him goodbye, then sold his companies secrets to his biggest rival before disappearing into his competitor's arms and bed. The betrayal had crystallized something inside him, turning warmth into strategy and love into leverage. "You've become a machine," his college friend Benjamin Hayes said, gesturing toward the socialites clustered near the bar. "When was the last time you felt anything real?" Nathan's dark eyes remained calculating. "Feelings are liabilities. Prefer honest transactions." Quite the cynical philosophy. Benjamin's smile turned predatory. "Care to test it?" The wall-mounted television flickered to life, showing footage of Victoria Sterling's latest scandal. She'd been caught racing through Central Park at midnight. Her emerald dress torn, dark hair wild as she laughed at the arresting officers. The news anchor called her Manhattan's most untamable heiress. "Victoria Sterling," Benjamin said. "If you can transform her into the perfect wife in 3 months, I'll invest $10 million in your next project." Nathan studied the screen. Victoria's green eyes blazed with defiance even as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. She reminded him of a beautiful wildfire, destructive and mesmerizing in equal measure. "And if I fail," Nathan asked, You donate $10 million to charity and admit your theories about human nature are wrong. Nathan extended his hand. Deal. 2 nights later, Nathan found himself at the Metropolitan Museum's fundraiser, scanning the crowd like a predator selecting prey. He spotted Victoria standing alone before a Renaissance painting, her emerald gown making her eyes appear luminous in the gallery's soft lighting. She looked untouchable, dangerous, perfect. Enjoying the art? Nathan approached with the confidence of someone who'd never heard the word no. It's better than the company. Her voice could cut glass. I'm Nathan Cross. He extended his hand. I know who you are. Tch. She ignored the gesture. Question is, what do you want? Direct. I appreciate that. Nathan stepped closer, close enough to catch her scent of jasmine and rebellion. I have a proposition. Victoria laughed, but the sound held no warmth. Let me guess. You want to buy something? My father's business? Maybe you think you can tame the wild Sterling daughter? Actually, I want to marry you. The words hung between them like a loaded gun. Victoria's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something vulnerable beneath the armor. Excuse me? A business arrangement, Nathan clarified. 3 months of marriage. You get freedom from whatever cage your family has built. I get a respectable wife for social appearances. After 3 months, we divorce. You walk away with enough money to disappear forever. Victoria's mind raced behind those emerald eyes. What's the real reason? My investors prefer married CEOs. Stability projects confidence. The lie came easily, practiced. 3 months, she repeated slowly. 3 months, you play the devoted wife at public events. Yeah. Pay off your family's debts and give you enough money to start over anywhere you choose. Victoria glanced around the gallery where Manhattan's elite continued their polite performances, oblivious to the life-altering negotiation unfolding in their midst. Nathan could see her calculating, weighing options, considering possibilities. I need time to think. Nathan pulled out a business card, his fingers brushing hers as she took it. The contact sent electricity up his arm, unexpected and unwelcome. Don't take too long, he said. I hear wedding plans move quickly in your social circle. That night, Victoria stared at Nathan's card, while Cassandra's ultimatum echoed in her mind. Sign the contracts or lose everything. Marry Marcus Rothschild or face financial ruin. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. The offer expires at midnight tomorrow. Choose carefully. Victoria closed her eyes and made a decision that would change everything. His city clerk's office smelled of stale coffee and broken dreams. Hardly the wedding venue Victoria had imagined as a little girl. She signed her name with steady fingers, while Nathan watched with those unreadable dark eyes, his expression revealing nothing of the man beneath the expensive suit. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Cross, the clerk announced with bureaucratic cheerfulness. Mrs. Cross? The name felt foreign on her tongue, like speaking a language she'd never learned. Nathan's penthouse overlooked Central Park, all clean lines, and cold surfaces that reflected his personality perfectly. Victoria stood in the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching joggers navigate the paths below, while Nathan explained the rules of their arrangement. Public appearances only, he said, loosening his tie. Charity galas, business dinners, anything, where we need to be seen together. The rest of the time, we live separate lives. How romantic, Victoria muttered, running her fingers along the marble countertop. What about sleeping arrangements? You have the guest wing? I won't disturb you. Victoria nodded, surprised by the sharp pang of disappointment in her chest. What had she expected? This was a business transaction, nothing more. The first month passed in a blur of carefully choreographed performances. They attended gallery openings and corporate galas. Nathan's hand possessive on her lower back, while Victoria smiled until her cheeks ached. To the outside world, they were the perfect power couple. Behind closed doors, they were strangers sharing expensive real estate, but cracks began to show in their carefully constructed facade. Victoria discovered Nathan worked 18-hour days, surviving on coffee and determination. She started leaving dinner plates outside his office door, small gestures he never acknowledged, but always accepted. Nathan noticed Victoria disappeared every Tuesday afternoon. returning with paint under her fingernails and something lighter in her eyes. He never asked where she went, but found himself looking forward to the subtle changes in her demeanor on those evenings. The first real conversation happened during their 6th week of marriage. Nathan found Victoria on the balcony at 3 a.m., still wearing the emerald gown from that evening's charity auction.
Ow.
She'd removed her heels and jewelry, looking younger without. The armor of designer accessories. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, joining her at the railing. Too much champagne, she lied. In truth, she'd been thinking about her mother's photographs, packed away in storage since Cassandra had redecorated the Sterling mansion. The Tokyo merger isn't going well. Nathan studied her profile in the moonlight. Why do you do it? Do what? The rebellion, the scandals. It's too calculated to be genuine recklessness. Victoria's laugh was hollow. Maybe I just like the attention. No, Nathan said quietly. You hate it. I can see it in your eyes every time a camera flashes. Observation hit too close to home. Victoria turned to leave, but Nathan's voice stopped her. My ex-fiancée used to smile the same way, right before she destroyed everything I'd built. Victoria turned back, seeing something vulnerable flicker across his features. What happened? She sold my company's secrets to a rival firm. Walked away with my biggest competitor and a $50 million payday. Nathan's hands gripped the railing. I was a fool to trust her. Maybe she was the fool for walking away. Nathan looked at her with surprise, as if the possibility had never occurred to him. Why? Because you're not as cold as you pretend to be, Victoria said softly. I've watched you, Nathan. The way you remember every employee's name. How you donated anonymously to 3 different children's hospitals last month. You think you're made of ice, but you're not. Something shifted between them in that moment. A crack in the walls they'd built around their hearts. 2 nights later, Victoria attended a business dinner where Nathan's biggest rival, James Morrison, made his appearance. The man was handsome in a predatory way, with silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. But what made Victoria's blood run cold was his date, Juliet Morrison, formerly Juliet Hayes, the woman who'd destroyed Nathan's ability to trust. Well, Juliet purred when she spotted Victoria across the restaurant. Nathan certainly has a type, beautiful, ambitious, and perfectly positioned to stab him in the back. Victoria's smile was razor sharp. Is that your specialty? Others? Juliet leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Tell me, what did he promise you? Money? Freedom? Did he mention he's planning to divorce you the moment his biggest deal closes? That this whole marriage is just a performance? For his Japanese investors? Words hit like physical blows, but Victoria kept her expression neutral. And you're telling me this because professional courtesy? One con artist to another? Juliet's eyes glittered with malice. He's using you, darling, just like he used me. Victoria excused herself and locked herself in the restaurant's bathroom, her hands shaking as she stared at her reflection. Everything made sense now. The rushed proposal, the convenient timing, the way Nathan watched her like she was a problem to be solved rather than a person to be known. When she returned to the table, Nathan was deep in conversation with James Morrison about market projections and quarterly earnings. He looked up when she sat down, his eyes immediately noticing her pale complexion. Are you all right? Victoria smiled, the expression feeling like broken glass. Perfect. Just like you taught me to be. That night, Victoria made a decision that would shatter both their worlds. Victoria spent the next morning in Nathan's study, photographing confidential documents with hands that refused to stop shaking. Every page she captured felt like another nail in the coffin of whatever fragile connection had begun growing between them. But Juliet's words echoed in her mind like poison. He's using you, just like he used me. The Japanese merger documents revealed the truth in stark black and white. Nathan needed a stable marriage to secure the deal. The moment the contracts were signed, their arrangement would end. She was nothing more than a prop in his corporate theater. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meridian Hotel, room 1247. 1 hour. Come alone. Victoria stared at the message, her reflection caught in the phone's dark screen. She looked like her mother in that moment. The same determined set of her jaw, the same fire in her green eyes. Catherine Sterling had taught her that sometimes the right choice was the hardest one to make. An hour later, Victoria sat across from James Morrison in his hotel suite. A briefcase of Nathan's stolen documents between them like a confession. "Impressive work," James said, flipping through the photographs. "These merger details are worth at least $200 million to my company. And to me?" Victoria's voice was steady, businesslike. $50 million, as discussed, plus protection from whatever financial ruin Nathan will try to orchestrate when he discovers your betrayal. Victoria closed her eyes, thinking of her secret charity work, the orphanages and shelters that depended on her donations. $50 million would fund them for decades, would give her the power to help people without hiding in shadows. "There's one more thing I need," she said. James raised an eyebrow. "You're hardly in a position to negotiate. Nathan has trust issues because of what Juliet did to him. I want her to tell him the truth about why she betrayed him. All of it." "Why do you care?" Because somewhere in the last 2 months, the cold businessman had shown her glimpses of warmth. Because he remembered her coffee order and left art supplies outside her door after noticing the paint under her fingernails. Because when he thought she wasn't watching, she'd caught him looking at her like she was something precious rather than purchased. "Call it professional courtesy," Victoria said instead. That evening, Nathan returned home to find Victoria waiting. In his study, still wearing the black dress from their morning charity breakfast. She looked like a beautiful funeral, all dark silk and pale skin. "We need to talk," she said. Nathan loosened his tie, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. "If this is about the photographers at the breakfast, I'll handle it." "They won't. Print those pictures. It's not about the photographers." Victoria stood, her hands clasped behind her back to hide their trembling. "I sold your merger documents to James Morrison." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. He went completely still, his dark eyes searching her face for some sign that this was another one of her rebellious jokes. "What did you just say?" "The Japanese merger. Every detail, every projection, every contingency plan. James has it all." Victoria's voice remained steady even as her heart shattered. $50 million was too good to pass up. Nathan's face went white, then flushed with rage so pure it made the air between them crackle with electricity. "You lying manipulative." "What? What am I, Nathan?" "Say it." He was across the room before she could blink, his hands gripping her shoulders. "Why? Why would you destroy everything?" Victoria looked up into his face, memorizing the hurt in his dark eyes. "Because you were going to destroy me first. This whole marriage, this whole performance, it was just about your merger. The moment those contracts are signed, I disappear, right? It's just like you planned from the beginning." Nathan's grip tightened. Does it matter? You used me, I used you, we're even now?" "Even." Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. "Victoria, that merger wasn't just about money. Those deals fund medical research programs, educational initiatives, technology that helps disabled children communicate. You didn't just steal from me. You stole from thousands of people who needed that funding." The floor seemed to drop away beneath Victoria's feet. "I didn't know because you didn't ask. You saw what you wanted to see, just like everyone else." Nathan released her so abruptly she stumbled backward. "Did you ever wonder why I worked? 18-hour days? Did you think it was just greed?" Victoria's throat closed. "Nathan, get out." His voice was arctic. "Get out of my home, out of my life. Our arrangement is terminated." "Nathan, please let me explain. You want to explain? Here's your explanation." Nathan pulled out his phone and showed her a news alert. James Morrison just announced his company is pulling funding from the pediatric wing at Mount Sinai, apparently. They need the money for a merger acquisition. Congratulations, Victoria. Your betrayal just cost sick children their new hospital wing. Victoria felt the world tilt sideways. "I didn't know. God, Nathan, I didn't know." "Ignorance isn't innocence," Nathan said coldly. "It's just another form of cruelty." As Victoria gathered her belongings with tears streaming down her face, she found a note tucked into her jewelry box. Nathan's handwriting probably left there. "Weeks ago, V, thank you for the dinners. Thank you for asking about my day. Thank you for making this house feel less empty. I know this arrangement will end soon, but I wanted you to know that these months with you have been the happiest I've had in years." And Victoria sank to her knees in the empty penthouse, clutching the note against her chest as she realized she'd destroyed the only real thing in her life. Outside, the city sparkled like broken promises, each light a reminder of the love she'd thrown away for money she no longer wanted. Her phone buzzed with a text from James Morrison. "Wire transfer complete. Pleasure doing business with you." Victoria threw the phone across the room and watched it shatter against the wall. It's just like everything else she'd ever cared about. 3 weeks after Victoria's betrayal, Nathan stood in the ruins of his empire, watching news reports of his company's stock plummeting while Mount Sinai Hospital announced the indefinite postponement of their pediatric wing construction. The Japanese merger had collapsed spectacularly, taking several subsidiary deals with it. His phone buzzed constantly with calls from investors, board members, and journalists. He ignored them all, focusing instead on the architectural plans spread across his desk. Plans for low-income housing developments, renewable energy projects, educational programs for underprivileged children. All the initiatives that would now never see funding, sir. Marcus, his assistant, appeared in the doorway looking haggard. "There's someone here to see you," she says. "It's urgent." Nathan didn't look up from the plans. "If it's another reporter, it's your ex-wife." Nathan's pen stopped moving. 3 weeks of silence, 3 weeks of wondering if Victoria was spending his money on champagne and designer clothes while children suffered. 3 weeks of trying to hate her and failing. "Tell her I'm busy, sir. She's been waiting in the lobby for 6 hours. Security tried to remove her twice, but she keeps coming back." Nathan closed his eyes, remembering the way Victoria had looked when he'd thrown her out, broken, devastated, beautiful in her destruction. 5 minutes. Then I want her gone. Victoria entered his office looking like a ghost of herself. Her designer clothes had been replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her face was bare of makeup, revealing the dark circles under her eyes and the hollow curve of her cheeks. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. "You look terrible," Nathan said without thinking. "Thank you. You look angry." Victoria remained standing near the door, as if ready to flee at any moment. "I need to tell you something. If you're here to apologize, I'm here to give you this." Victoria pulled out a thick envelope and placed it on his desk. $50 million. Every penny James Morrison paid me, plus interest. Nathan stared at the envelope without touching it. "Where did you get this money?" "I sold everything. My trust fund, my jewelry, my art collection, my mother's paintings. Everything except the clothes on my back." Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands shook. "It's not enough to undo what I did, but it's a start. Because you were right. Ignorance isn't innocence. It's cruelty." Victoria stepped closer to his desk. "I spent 3 weeks learning about everything my betrayal destroyed. The hospital wing, the research programs, the housing developments. I met some of the families who were counting on that funding." Nathan's throat tightened. "Victoria, I met a little girl named Emma. She's 7 years old and needs a specialized communication device that would have been funded through your merger. Her parents can't afford it. She's been waiting 2 years to tell her mother she loves her." Victoria's voice finally cracked. "I stole her voice, Nathan. Stole it for money I didn't even want." Nathan stood slowly, seeing the genuine anguish in Victoria's eyes. This wasn't the calculated rebellion he'd grown accustomed to. This was raw, honest pain. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "Nothing. I want nothing from you." Victoria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "But I need you to know that I didn't betray you for money. I betrayed you because I was scared." "Scared of what? Of caring about you? Of wanting this fake marriage to be real? Of falling in love with someone who was planning to discard me? The moment it became convenient?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Juliet told me you were using me, and instead of asking you directly, I decided to hurt you first." "I'm a coward, Nathan. A selfish, frightened coward." Nathan moved around the desk, stopping just inches from her. "You're not a coward. Cowards don't sell everything they own to fix their mistakes. it doesn't fix anything. Those projects are still canceled. That little girl still can't speak to her mother. I can't undo what I did. Nathan reached out, tilting her chin up until she met his eyes. Maybe we can't undo it. Maybe we can rebuild it. Victoria's breath caught. What? Marry me again? For real this time. Not for business or appearances or anyone else's expectations. Marry me because you want to spend your life helping people instead of hiding from them. Nathan, I can't ask you to forgive me. I'm not forgiving you, Nathan said quietly. I'm choosing you. Despite everything, I'm choosing you. Because somewhere in the last 3 months, the woman I married for convenience became the woman I can't imagine living without. Victoria's tears fell freely now. I don't deserve you. Neither of us deserves happiness after the things we've done. But maybe that's exactly why we need each other. Nathan cupped her face in his hands. We're both broken, Victoria. But maybe broken things can heal together. What about your company? The merger? Money can be replaced. Trust funds can be rebuilt. But finding someone who's willing to sacrifice everything to fix their mistakes, someone who sees past the walls you've built and chooses to love you anyway? Nathan smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it reached his eyes. That's irreplaceable. Victoria kissed him then, desperate and grateful and full of promises she intended to keep. When they broke apart, Nathan pressed his forehead against hers. So what do you say, Mrs. Cross? Ready to save the world together? I thought you'd never ask, Mr. Cross. 6 months later, Victoria stood in the newly completed pediatric wing of Mount Sinai Hospital, watching a little girl named Emma use her new communication device to tell her mother, I love you, for the first time. Nathan's hand was warm in hers as they witnessed the miracle they'd helped create through their rebuilt company and newfound partnership. They'd learned that love wasn't about perfection or safety or even trust. Love was about choosing each other. Every day, especially on the days when it was hard, love was about building something beautiful from the wreckage of your mistakes. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, love was about finding someone who saw all your broken pieces and helped. You turned them into something whole. The end.